It is preview season, and today it's all about the Arizona Wildcats. Can they bounce back from Brent Brennan's year one, 4-8, disappointing year in the Big 12? We'll discuss all that and more here on today's Armchair Analysis. Welcome in. It is June 6th, 2025, and really excited to get into this one because I think this is a team that brings a lot of intrigue to the entirety of the Big 12 race. They could play spoiler. I don't know if they're a contender. We'll talk more about that. But I think this is a team that can genuinely put together a year where they maybe ruin that chance for other teams around them. We'll get into all that here. Again, welcome in. I thank you all for tuning in here to the channel. And just go ahead and get right into it. I don't know. As we always do, the 2024 recap. Team went 4-8 last year. Disappointing in year one, coming off of what was a team that contended for a Big 12 title 2 years ago under Jed Fish. But the new era, Brent Brennan comes in from San Jose State and keeps a good portion of the roster. Noah Fafita, Tet McMillan, all those guys stick around. But what really let them down was the defense. Now, they weren't great offensively either. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but the defense really let this team down last year, averaging 31.8 points per game allowed, which is good for 109th in the country. The offense, not great either. They were 114th, scoring just 21.8 points per game, and a turnover margin of negative 0.4. Again, they were 4-8, 2-7 in conference. Just overall disappointing, and the only team worse was Oklahoma State, as we talked about earlier. The recruiting class and the portal class didn't do a whole lot for me. 56 in recruiting, 54th in portal. Brent Brennan has a bit of an uphill climb here, if you will, going into this year. But I think that what they did this offseason truly is a bit underrated, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So going into this year, Seth Doege returns as the offensive coordinator, along with Danny Gonzalez on the defensive side. Seth Doege, of course, known for his quarterbacking days at Texas Tech, but leading this offense is going to be interesting because obviously this is an air raid style, takes after Cliff Kingsbury, Mike Leach, the typical air raid guys. And Noah Fafita fits the bill. He can do everything you need him to do. The biggest thing is, can they run the ball better this year? Ismail Mahdi comes over from Texas State, and this is a guy who was a big part of last year's Texas State team, and part of what I thought was going to be maybe a college football playoff team in Texas State. That didn't work out quite the way we thought it would, but this is one of those group of 5 transfers that I expect to be kind of a home run. I think that what Monty can add to this offense, on top of the fact that Kendrick Risano is going to be back as well, this run game, I think, is going to improve off of what it was in 2024. You look at the wide receiver room, and yeah, you lose Tet McMillan, and there's no replacing Tetairoa McMillan. You just can't do it. But what you can do is recruit and bring in portal players who can potentially add up to match what McMillan did. And I think they did really well with that. Luke Wysong out of New Mexico is a guy who I think is criminally underrated as a transfer. Was able to be a big part of that offense last year. Of course, it was led by Devin Dampier, now at Utah. Wysong, I think, is going to come out and early on be a favorite target for Noah Fafita. Chris Hudson comes over from Washington State. Similar story. Really solid, was a big-time weapon for John Mateer, who's now at Oklahoma, of course, with Ben Arbuckle. But Chris Hudson, I think, is going to come in and be another guy that Fafita can trust and go to early. Chris Hunter is the lone returning expected starter. You also got Trey Spivey, who they got in the portal as well, and I think he's another underrated add. The offense, I think, improves, and I think it's certainly bound to be more than a 22 points per game offense. What I didn't add was Sam Olson and a very experienced offensive line, all seniors. Sorry, 4 out of 5 are seniors, 1 junior. But all upperclassmen, this entire offense, if they can gel early, this could be a team, again, that just scores a lot of points. Now, we shift to the defensive side of the ball. Dalton Johnson returns. He's the leading returning tackler on the team. He had 94 total tackles last year. Trey Smith returns as a sack leader. He had 4.5 sacks from a season ago. You got Genesis Smith coming back along with Jack Luttrell, both safeties. 3 interceptions apiece. And then Genesis Smith also led the team in deflections. This is a team that I think can play a lot better. And they lose Takario Davis to the NFL draft, which you would think is a huge loss. But what they do is return a lot still. And they didn't really have to go to the portal to try to replace anything. Now, they bring in Javion Cole, who I think is going to be a starter from the beginning. But beyond that, I think the defense is going to be... I think they'll at least hold steady. I don't know that they're going to be better. I don't know that they're going to be worse. I just think that they're going to hold steady and be probably in that 28 to 30 points per game allowed margin. If I were to guess right now, I don't foresee a huge jump putting them in to the top 50. And if they do, then this is a team that could be a college football playoff contender. I just don't see that happening as of right now. So what do I think of this team as we sit here and talk about them about 7 minutes into this video? This is the paragraph as I rate for everybody. The paragraph for them. Surprisingly, okay, now I understand what I wrote. Takes me a minute sometimes. So, in regards to 2024, I think this team lost more than most of the country realized. This team returns a lot of talent, and I think they could even play a factor into the Big 12 title race, similar to what I said earlier. And I stand by it. I think that this is a team that can do a lot of really good things going forward. Now, I don't know, again, if playoff is the aspiration, but is playoff really reasonable? To be determined. It really sits on what this defense does. How do they improve? Do they improve at all? Or do they sit right in that same 30-ish points per game mark? All will be found out. It also doesn't help that they have a tough schedule. And since we're talking about the schedule, let's take a look at it. Pull it up. And as you see, they kick it off with Hawaii and Weber State back-to-back weeks. They get K-State, Iowa State, BYU, Houston, Colorado, Kansas, Cincinnati, Baylor, Arizona State. Now, I pretty much named every team they play in the Big 12. And that's because I think all the Big 12 teams, this is going to be a cannibalistic style conference again, as it always tends to be. The teams that are sitting kind of in the middle of the road are going to kind of tear each other up and even bring each other down to the point where you have to sit back and question who's actually good and who's not. I think legitimately all of these teams are good. We sit and talk about maybe third or fourth in the conference on down. Anybody can win any given week, minus maybe one or two. And I feel like we sit here once again, as we have for the last 3 or 4 years, and say the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and talk, real quick. Over-under sits at 5.5. Keep that number in mind. Odds to win the Big 12 plus 5,500, and national championship odds, as pretty much everybody else has been, plus 100,000 to win the national championship. So, they start off with Hawaii and Weber State. I think they're going to get 2 wins right off the bat, and I think this is going to show us a lot about the defense, but it's going to show us what the offense is and how they're going to gel together. And it's 2 perfect weeks to do it, because you follow that up with a Friday game against Kansas State. If I'm not mistaken, and I believe I'm correct in saying this, Kansas State is a non-conference game still. This was part of a pre-scheduled thing before the Big 12 kind of poached what was left of the Pac-12. So this game does not count for conference record. This is the final time that should happen, but it is the case as of right now. Knowing that this game doesn't matter doesn't particularly change my mind in any way. This is a good Kansas State team all around, and specifically on the defensive side of the ball, versus an Arizona team that I expect to still be kind of getting their feet under them. I'm taking Kansas State to get the win, even over in Tucson. You get a bye week before you go on the road to Ames, but I'm taking another loss there. I just like Iowa State a little bit more in this matchup, and especially so early in the season. You get Oklahoma State at home, and I think you're going to win that game. If you already saw the Oklahoma State video, you kind of know where I'm at with them. But I think Arizona kind of gets back on track here. This BYU game is interesting because if Jake Retzloff is not a part of this program or team, and I keep saying that because it is somewhat of an uncertainty. It's not a foregone conclusion they won't be. And I don't like feeding into the rumors, but it is a legitimate question mark right now for this BYU program. If he's not a part of this team, I think Arizona wins this game. I think Arizona could still win this game, even if Jake Retzloff's on the field. I'm taking BYU to win, but this is going to be I don't want to say an upset special because I don't really know what BYU will look like and where they'll be ranked at this time in the year. But I think it's going to be a really, really close football game. The BYU just barely pulls out. You go on the road to Houston. If this game's played in Tucson, I'm feeling a whole different way about it. Being on the road, I like what Willie Fritz is building. I like Connor Wegman. I can't say that enough. Taking Houston to win. So you're sitting here at 3-4, going into your second and final bye week. You come out of it on the road in Boulder against Colorado, and I think you get a win. I don't really know how to feel about this Colorado team right now. I've tried to find something, tried to find the right way to put it. I just haven't been able to find something that puts them over the top or improves them off of last year. As a matter of fact, if anything, I feel like they kind of regress. So I think they win this game. I think you get another win here against Kansas. This game being in Tucson plays a big factor, but I'm also not loving Kansas. I think that Kansas last year regressed a lot, and I think this year I don't see a lot that changes my opinion on sticking in that 6 to 7 win category. Cincinnati on the road, you're going to carry the momentum of back-to-back wins and get a third straight. I love Brennan Sorsby. I really like this entire Cincinnati team. But something here just feels a little wacky. Really liking Arizona in it. They come back home to face Baylor, and I've talked about how much I like Sawyer Robinson, how much I like this Baylor team in 2025. I'm going to take the Bears to take that one. Leading to the final game where you walk in at 6-5 to face Arizona State in Tempe. If this game is anywhere else, and by anywhere else I mean in Tucson, I'm probably taking Arizona to win this game because I think the teams are much closer this year. I really like Sam Levitt at this point in the season. I like Sam Levitt all year, really, as part of this team, and obviously having Jordan Tyson back is a big deal. I think that this Arizona State team can repeat what they did last year and maybe beyond that. So in saying that, I'm taking Arizona State to win, leaving Arizona at 6-6, 3-6 in conference. I think that 3-6 could easily turn into probably 5-4 if we're being realistic. That 6-6 could turn into 9-3 easily. It's just really difficult because the teams that they play, they have a tough schedule. The Big 12 as a whole is a really tough schedule to get through, especially when you don't play. There's nobody at the bottom that's so far below that they can't win a game. That makes it super tough to really sit back and say, yeah, Arizona, don't love them. Kansas, don't love them. Cincinnati, don't love them. I could pick anybody and say that. But I do like this Arizona team. I think that there's a lot of pieces that, if they are put together correctly, this team becomes extremely dangerous to the rest of the field. So with that said, again, 6-6. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys have to say on that. I think that it's an interesting spot to be in if you're Arizona and Brent Brennan, because you want to match what Jed Fish did in the final year. But at the same time, I think you have to understand that this is not quite the same style, the same team even, as it was a couple of years ago. There's a lot of really good pieces and there's a lot of things to like. It's just a matter of how they get put together and how it works out. So, with that said, A little bit shorter today. I think we're getting a little bit better at being more efficient, which is nice. But that is it for the Arizona preview. Tomorrow, we get Maryland. And I'm excited to talk about this one because there's some things, there's just some, I'm interested to see how they do things. It'll be, it's not a team that I particularly love, but I'm just really kind of curious how they set themselves up for the future. So make sure you tune in for that tomorrow. If you haven't already, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your predictions. What do you think Arizona is going to do here in 2025? Do you think they'll be 6-6? Will they miss out on a bowl again? Will they be better? All that is welcome down in the comments. And also, as I always say, you know your team better than I do in a lot of cases. Let me know who I left out. Let me know who I didn't talk about, who I didn't give the spotlight to that maybe deserves it. There's a lot of players on this team, and it's hard to get everybody and hard to know exactly what everybody's going to be. So any feedback like that helps me, helps people who are going to tune into this video and see it down in the comments. So again, I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow with the Maryland Terrapins.